Hello, welcome to another video in the series on how to use CNC Write. This video will go into details about the text parameters and justification sections. Starting with height, it is the actual height of capital letters. Some lowercase letters hang below the line by 1/3 of the height. Also, in the simplex font, quotes, brackets, and parentheses go above the capital letters by about 20% of the height, making the total line height 53% more, or 1.53 times the height value. Width ratio is used to stretch the letters either wider or narrower without affecting the height. Spacing ratio works the same as width ratio, except it affects the spacing from one character to the next. In both cases, a value between 0 and 1 will decrease the standard width or spacing, and a value greater than 1 will increase it. I'll show examples of both at the end of this video. Line spacing is a scale factor based on the height. If the height is 3 millimeters, then the next line of text will start 4.5 millimeters below the start of the line above. Because some characters make the total line height larger than that of capital letters, 1.5 is really the minimum line spacing for the basic font, and 1.6 for the simplex font. If you are using only numbers and uppercase letters, you could decrease the line spacing some. How close to 1 it can be will depend on how wide the groove the engraving cutter makes. Next is the font file that is currently loaded. The Pick Font button will display the File Open dialog and let you pick a different font. As you can see, there are only 2 font files to choose from. If there is enough demand, I could add more. It's not very difficult to make font files. It's just tedious and time-consuming. If you open a font file in a text editor, like Notepad, you will see it is just G-codes to engrave the characters 1 unit tall with the lower left corner at XY0. I will make a video on editing the font file later. It can be handy if you need some special characters that aren't on a typical keyboard, or if you want to use CNC Write to engrave a logo on your parts. That brings us to the justification section. Text can be left, center, or right aligned with the start point, which, with 2 exceptions, is set by the values in the Axis 1 and Axis 2 start fields. The exceptions are for circle and ellipse text, where Axis 1 and 2 start mark the center of the circle or ellipse. The position around the circle or ellipse where the text is justified is defined in other ways. Details on how that works will be in a future video. Now for the examples. In this first example, the width ratio varies from 1.5 down to 0.5. The text is still readable with a width ratio of 0.5. In the second example, the spacing ratio varies from 1 to 0.65. The characters start to overlap with a spacing ratio of 0.65, so 0.7 is probably the smallest you would want to use. I don't recommend using a spacing ratio greater than 1, because it makes the text look weird. In the third example, both the width and spacing ratios vary. With a width ratio of 0.5 and a spacing ratio of 0.7, the text fits in a lot less space without needing to change the height. How well this will look on a part will depend on the width of the groove the engraving cutter makes. If you have limited space for a long part number or serial numbers, you can experiment with the width and spacing ratios to get the text to fit. Using the Freeform Text tab, You can find out just how long a line of text is without looking at the G-code or measuring the finished part. On that tab, there is a label a little to the right of the Engraved Text button. This label tells how wide the current line of text will be. The value in that label updates when the text on the line changes. So if you change the width or spacing ratio, you will need to edit the line of text before it will update. I just add a space, then delete it to get that value to update. You can experiment with all of these settings by downloading CNC Write and using the website ncviewer.com. Just remember the limitations of the free trial that are described in the intro video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I will be posting another video in about a week that will go into detail on the axis settings and feed options. If you need to know more before the videos are finished, you can find good explanations of all the fields by clicking on the different parts of the image on the screenshots page of the website at cncwrite.com. Until next time.